Whenever people talk about Sonic lore, it's usually about Shadow's backstory, Gerald's research, the alien races, or the Chaos Emeralds. Today, however, I want to take the time to go over some of the series' lesser-known relics and artifacts. Some of them I've tackled on the channel before, and some I haven't touched at all. A few of these are things we honestly don't know much about, from the Jeweled Scepter to the Sacred Swords and the World Rings, but let's go over everything we do know regarding these artifacts. I've mentioned it a few times before, both in my timeline video and in one of my more recent Sonic videos, the Jeweled Scepter. It's a scepter from the Soul Dimensions version of Earth, and it was introduced in Sonic Rush Adventure. This isn't just some random magical rod. Oh no, it's much more than that. While it can cause natural disasters like earthquakes and volcanic eruptions, and fiery orbs of magical energy, its most notable ability is that it houses the power of the stars. This power is a magical force that sustains the different parallel dimensions within Sonic's universe. Yeah, I wasn't joking back then when I said this thing is stronger than the Emeralds. We don't know exactly how strong the scepter is, but if you put it against both the Chaos and Soul Emeralds, they don't really stand a chance if we're talking purely raw power. It's unknown who created the scepter or where it came from. You'd imagine it was created sometime near the beginning of the Soul Dimensions creation, maybe even earlier, considering it's tied to all parallel dimensions. Evo and Nega tried to use it to create Eggman Land in Rush Adventure, but after their defeat, the scepter was sealed within a shrine, under heavy guard for safekeeping. Like the Soul Emeralds, the Jeweled Scepter seems to have the ability to teleport across dimensions, or at least allow communication between them, as we see Marine mention in the IDW comics. Though Blaze specifically mentions the Soul Emeralds there, so it's likely the scepter simply allows or amplifies the communication somehow. The scepter itself has strange jewels or crystals embedded in it. Could those jewels be what gives it its power? Considering how many gemstones throughout the series come with absurd abilities, from the Chaos and Soul Emeralds to the Time Stones and Phantom Ruby, honestly, my money's on that. And if this theory is correct, who found those jewels? Where did they come from? Were they created by someone, or were they once part of something larger? My mind immediately jumps to the Paradox Prism from Sonic Prime. The Jeweled Scepter even has multicolored jewels like the prism. The Paradox Prism is capable of manipulating space and time, just like we see in the show, so maybe the two are related somehow? You know, they kind of look like the Time Stones. I guess there are only so many shapes you can use for gemstones. Anyway, these are the Soul Emeralds, and I've talked about them briefly on the channel before. They're the Soul Dimensions version of the Chaos Emeralds. Like the Jeweled Scepter, the Soul Emeralds have been sought after by Evo and Nega, but thankfully they're under the protection of the Soul Empire, and by extension, Princess Blaze. Like the Chaos Emeralds, they hold incredible power, still second to the power of the stars, however. The Soul Emeralds can convert people's thoughts into power, much like the Chaos Emeralds. They also allow for teleportation across dimensions, time travel, and even grant a super form. They seem to be sentient to some degree as well. Basically, you can attribute nearly every feat of the Chaos Emeralds to the Soul Emeralds. They are dimensional counterparts, after all. Soul translates to sun in many languages. The Soul Dimension's Earth seems to be mostly underwater, with many of the areas Sonic visits being islands. Blaze's super form is fiery, which fits the whole tropical sun theme. Obviously, this is meant to be a fiery, tropical counterpart to Sonic's world, but it makes me wonder what the other dimensions might be like, and what the specific backstory of the Soul Emeralds is. Was their history similar to the Ancients? Where did they come from before that? And that also raises questions about the Chaos Emerald's deeper origins. Maybe there's a dimension for each emerald type, corresponding to the different colors, 7 dimensions in total. Now that would be interesting. The Soul and Chaos Emeralds aren't the only things that can teleport in the series. There is also the Warp Topaz. It was first discovered in the Classic era by the Hard-Boiled Heavies, and was later used by Dr. Starline for his research. As I alluded to earlier, it allows its user to teleport and open portals across the world. Really handy if you need to get somewhere quickly. It's also incredibly sensitive to energy. Even a small energy output is enough to activate it. And if it gets supercharged, say, by the Chaos Emeralds, it can go absolutely haywire and cause major damage. Like the Jeweled Scepter and Soul Emeralds, it's unclear where the Topaz originated. All we know is that it was found and stored in a cave. A topaz is a type of gemstone, so it could be related to the emeralds in some way. Maybe. Despite these stones being so important to Sonic lore, we don't have any kind of canon origin for them. It's possible the warp topaz formed naturally in the cave where it was discovered, but that's just speculation. I've discussed both Secret Rings and the Black Knight before, but the worlds themselves are fascinating because they appear within books, specifically 1001 Nights and King Arthur and the Knights of the Round Table. They're based on real-world books, Le Morte d'Arthur and 1001 Nights, both classic folktales. The characters in these worlds share names and backgrounds with their literary counterparts, but have been replaced with Sonic characters. On the surface, they seem like regular storybooks, yet somehow they spawn entire alternate realities. It's unclear where these storybooks came from. By now, you're probably starting to notice a theme. These are living worlds, populated by real people based on the stories, but who created them and how they came to exist is unknown. Did they exist before the books were written? All we know is that the books themselves act as portals, and some characters, like Eraser Jin, are aware that they exist inside a storybook-like realm, which drives their plots. At least we do know a bit more about the mystical items within these storybook realms, the World Rings and the Sacred Swords. The World Rings keep the world of Arabian Nights intact. They're like devices that hold reality together. They're incredibly powerful, and you've probably noticed by now that their colors are strikingly similar to the emeralds. Many inhabitants of Arabian Nights believe the World Rings to be mere myths, and even if they exist within the realm, their bodies phase right through them. It's as if the rings exist on a completely different plane of existence. Only those from outside the world can physically touch them. Inhabitants can still wield them, but only through magic. Each world ring represents a different emotion, and appeals to both good and bad aspects of anyone who can touch them. It's hard to gauge exactly how strong the world rings are, but just 3 of them were enough to transform Sonic into Darkspine, a form comparable in strength to Super. Like the Jeweled Scepter, it's very possible the World Rings are stronger than even the Chaos Emeralds. Could the World Rings themselves have created the world of Arabian Nights? They clearly exist on a higher level than the world's inhabitants, holding reality together while remaining untouchable. I mentioned before that there seems to be a set of emeralds or powerful stones for each reality and alternate dimension. If my theory is at least partially correct, then perhaps this is one of those realities. Likewise, the Sacred Swords are to the world of Camelot, or the World Rings are to the Arabian Nights, artifacts of immense importance that help maintain the balance of the land. They function differently, but they occupy the same tier of power and significance. The Ark of the Cosmos are 5 ancient ring-shaped metallic stones created by the Babylonians, a mysterious extraterrestrial civilization. Though small and unassuming, each Ark contains technology far beyond anything found on Sonic's world. Each Ark can generate powerful magnetic gravitational fields to negate gravity and repel objects. They can also convert mass energy into other forms of energy, essentially making them hyper-advanced power units. All 5 Arks operate as a single system, with one acting as the master unit, while the other subunits are drawn toward it. When all 5 resonate together, they summon Babylon Garden. Long ago, the Babylonians created the Arks as gravity engines, power sources meant to harness the energy of a black hole. Their purpose was to drive the warp core of the Babylonian spacecraft, the Astral Babylon, which would one day become Babylon Garden. But the Arks proved too powerful. Babylonians realized they could not control the black hole level energy they had created. To prevent catastrophe, they severed the Arks from the ship and sent them into orbit around Sonic's world, abandoning them in space. Over time, each Ark fell to the planet independently, some during the age of the ancient Babylonians, who later settled on the planet and hid them in places like Gigan Rocks and Crimson Crater, and others, much later, eventually ending up in museums or in Eggman's hands. Honestly, the whole situation brings to mind how the ancients used the Chaos Emeralds as a power source, very similar in concept. The Cacophonic Conch is an extremely rare artifact from the Lost Hex, designed to counter one specific threat, the Zeti. Shaped like a jagged purple conch shell with a glowing red opening, it emits a low, resonant tone that causes intense pain to any Zeti who hear it. More importantly, the sound disrupts their magnetic powers, preventing them from manipulating machines or controlling badniks. It is the only known natural inhibitor to Zeti abilities. Unlike the other artifacts and relics on this list, there seem to be multiple conches. Eggman uses one in Sonic Lost World to control the Zeti, but like every single one of his plans, it backfires. Starline also uses one in the IDW comics to control the Deadly Six during the Metal Virus arc, but that doesn't work out either. Do these things just exist in the waters of the Lost Hex? You'd think Zavok and the others would have destroyed them by now, considering they've been used against them multiple times. Maybe, like Kryptonite, they simply can't touch it, but I still feel like there has to be a way around that. We can't make a video about Sonic Relics and not talk about the Gaia manuscripts. I've already discussed the different ancient civilizations in Sonic's universe along with Dark Gaia, but let's focus on the manuscripts specifically. The Gaia manuscripts are a collection of ancient documents, created tens and thousands of years ago. They record everything known about the last time of awakening, a catastrophic event when Dark Gaia rose, shattered the planet, and was eventually sealed away by Light Gaia. Written in a lost language, the manuscripts can only be fully interpreted by Professor Pickle. What a name. The foremost expert on ancient texts in Sonic's world. Essentially, the Gaia manuscripts serve as a complete encyclopedia of the Gaia cycle. They contain records of the ancient planet-shattering disaster, locations and details of the Gaia temples, descriptions of Dark Gaia's minions, including their weaknesses, information on Dark Gaia itself, its nature, goals, and the consequences of its rebirth, prediction of what would happen if Dark Gaia succeeded. Basically, the Gaia manuscripts are the world's surviving manual on how to understand and survive the awakening of Dark Gaia. During the last awakening, when Dark Gaia tore the world into fragments, Light Gaia restored the planet and sealed Dark Gaia away. Sometime during or after this event, ancient civilizations compiled their knowledge into what became the Gaia manuscripts, preserving everything survivors had learned about the crisis in hopes that future generations could prevent it from happening again. In modern times, the manuscripts ended up in the care of the professor. You know, there's still plenty we don't know about these artifacts, who made them, how long they've been around, and the full extent of the power they hold. We've seen some developments in recent years, but the more we learn, the more questions arise. Rather than constantly introducing new concepts, as fun as that is, I hope Sega eventually expands on the ones we already know about. We've seen Chaos Control used countless times, yet we still really don't know what it is. Entire civilizations existed in Sonic's world, but we still know almost nothing about them. As soon as any new information drops, you can bet I'll be right on top of it.